How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to be back to working on 69 castback. You can see he's already hard at it. You might be wondering why it's untaped if you've been keeping up with the videos. Well, the reason for that is after waiting for the primer to dry, we got thinking there was a couple of things that we really didn't like on the car. And we was going to kind of put up with it because the money was already spent and it was already done. And then it just got to irritating. And we said, hey, man, we got to do something about it before we get it in paint. We don't want to regret it later. So there's two things we're going to be working on. One is the exhaust. We're going to go ahead and pull the whole exhaust from the heads back. We're going to get rid of it. It's got some stainless steel headers. It's got 2.5-inch pipe with the X pipe, and it's got some decent like semi-chambered mufflers. I don't know what you really call them. Not your traditional chambered mufflers, but this car has a real exotic sound to it. It don't really have a mean V8 sound to us in person. On video, it sounds a little more V8-y, but it has more of an exotic noise like a V10 or 12 would have, like when it's wrapped up. And we really don't care for that sound. It kind of gets away from the V8 noise. Not really sure why. We've kind of done some research. Supposedly an X-pipe kind of gives you a more exotic noise, kind of, and then stainless. We've got stainless mufflers and stainless headers on this thing. And they say stainless gives you a different kind of noise. So what we've done is we're going to go all mild steel. Full-blown chamber mufflers. We're going to go ahead and go with some 3-inch pipe. You can see here, that's the 2.5 we got on the car. This is the 3-inch we're going to be going to. We got some round chambered mufflers here. These are full bore performance mufflers. Just we went ahead and went with the round ones just to give us some more adjustability underneath the car. Just because everything gets kind of tight under there, and with 3-inch, we really didn't know. The exhaust we got on there kind of blowing right at the rear rubber brake line. It's not just a real ideal situation. And he picked up these Headman headers off eBay. A guy was selling them used. I'm sure they're complete garbage and they don't line up on the bottom of the car. That was kind of the problem we was having with the stainless. These seem to be built the same. We're probably going to have to cut on the collectors and point them in the right direction because the driver's side already looks like it's going to point to the transmission, and the passenger side looks like it's going to try to point to the transmission. We're also not going to be running a X-pipe this time. We're going to build a H-pipe because the H-pipe is supposed to give you a little more low end and a little more musclier sound than what the X does. So hopefully all this money being spent to correct this, I don't know about the sound. I don't know if it'll sound better or worse, but hopefully it's just ran a little cleaner than what we've got it now. Once we get this out from underneath the car, we'll kind of show you. It's not just a real ideal deal. We tried to center everything up, and it really just wasn't working. We didn't have a real pipe bender to kind of put things where we really wanted it. So this time we're going to give it a real go and see if we can get it right. We got the old stainless headers off. Here's the exhaust that we had built for it. You can kind of tell. The problem is the engine's kind of, I don't know, offset from the transmission tunnel. And we was trying to put the X-pipe in the middle of the transmission tunnel. And then it just got kind of cattywampus how we was doing everything, and we wasn't real fond of it. And then these mufflers, they wasn't really wanting to set up in the floorboard holes like they're supposed to, just because drive shaft clearances and stuff. Hopefully the 3-inch don't make it any worse. And I guess these Chinese stainless headers were basically just a knockoff of the American headers, other than the flange. The flange does look a little better. I'm going to show them the flange.
Chinese versus that.
You can see that the Chinese put a nicer flange. They're probably 3/8 thick.
Price-wise,
these things are probably only a quarter. The only advantage to this is that's going to make it easier to install. These new headers, these Headmans, they are a lot more low profile, so they're not going to hit everything on the car. These were basically hitting everything. We wound up having to crush a tube a little bit for the steering box there. And then on the other one, I had to crush a whole tube for the shock tower. I had to crush that tube. And you can see that the headers are pretty much exactly bent the same, just the new ones are a lot more low profile. The bends are a lot more low profile when they come out of the flange from these sticking out. The only other thing is on the old headers, the flanges are actually square. And on the new ones, they're oval. So you get the oval of the new, and then on these old ones, they're square to match the actual head. That was a lot better deal, but we're gonna get away from this and see if these fit better, and hopefully they'll wind up sounding better in the long run and get rid of that exotic noise. You can see here we've already had to start slicing and dicing on these new headers. This coupler actually, or this collector actually ran right into the transmission when you had bolted up, and that's the same problem we had on the other ones. So we're gonna go ahead and slice it and re-weld it and send it down the car straight this time. Ended up taking about a 3/8 pie slice out of that to make that collector back straight. Basically made the collector straight with the flange on the header. You can kind of tell there. Got it propped out here in the sun trying to get this to dry where we had re-welded it.
Chinese kid didn't know what he was doing.
I don't think any of the Americans did either, because all the headers are done like this, but they're probably all made where you just I'll show you the other header and how it kind of points into the transmission and why we had to fix that. See, on this other header we had on the car, see how that collector turns straight into the transmission? Well, on that new header we went ahead and made that where it's all straight, so we're not having to run the exhaust funny. Wound up getting the headers on. Had to go ahead and move the collector on this one too. It was pointing to the transmission. You can see down in there we kind of got it pointed going straight down the car. Now it's time to start running some exhaust. We had to run to Harbor Freight and get one of them exhaust tubing expansion tools. These collectors are a little too they're 2.5, and we're gonna run 3-inch, so we gotta expand the collectors that bolt on out to 3-inch.
See how this China product works.
Oh, this should work great. That's what we kind of got worked up right off the headers. That wound up right in the transmission tunnel. Gonna run some straight pipe, put our mufflers on, and it should be alright. We're pretty happy with the way this turned out. Let's see how the rest turns out. This is what we wound up with underneath the car. Looks a lot cleaner than what we had. You can see what we had over there. It wasn't as terrible, but it wasn't quite as clean as this setup. But when we tacked the mufflers on, it was getting kind of late. We wanted to hear what it sounded like. We fired up the car, and as soon as the car fired up, we realized we had a problem. So not only was the exhaust back out from underneath it, which it needed to be to get fully welded, but the headers are off of it. Well, what happened is when we bolted these headers on, we were so excited about looking at tube clearance. We didn't even notice that the rounded part of these on these flanges were actually hitting the headers, and there was no way it was going to seal, or it was hitting the heads, not the headers, my bad. But there was no way it was going to seal because it was hitting on the head here, and it was, yeah, you can kind of see here where it was hitting. Wasn't no way it was ever going to bolt up. It was just pivoting on these two edges here. So what we're going to do is go in here like most headers are, and we're going to cut these flat right at the bottom of the weld and see if we can get these to actually clear the bottom of that head where they will bolt up flush. That is going to swivel the bottoms in some. Hopefully it doesn't mess up the little H-pipe deal we got set up here. If it does, I think we're going to have to cut it. We'll have to cut it here in the middle and kind of sleeve it where that whole thing will kind of come in, and put a sleeve on there and weld it back up. I hope that's not the case because I don't want a scab job on it, but we'll see. That might be the only way we can salvage it. Wound up cutting them off. That's what it looks like. We're going to get these painted back up. Well, make sure they fit the head and then get them painted back up. Get them back on. And that's the final product that's going to be going under the car. Now let's get it thrown back under there and see what it sounds like. Finished up the exhaust. He just got done throwing a little bit smaller jets, rejetting that carburetor. We're going to fire this thing up and see what this new setup sounds like. Yeah, it's all done. He's a lot happier with this setup. He likes the way it sounds. And, in his opinion, it got rid of that exotic noise. It does sound more what a V8 would sound rather than a V10 or 12. It even sounds like a V8 revving now. Before it sounded super exotic. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. We appreciate everybody watching. Until next time, we'll catch you guys later.